Good afternoon. My name is Danny,
I'm Alex.
and today we're going to be debating if college athletes should be paid as employees. I'm going to start, and I am on the side of they should not be. For the first reason being team dynamics. If student athletes were paid employees, then one of the most significant consequences from that would be the potential for inequality within athletic teams. The idea of compensating athletes for their performance raises concerns about the fairness and unity of the team. In specifics, the distribution of compensation based on factors such as skill level, popularity, or visibility could lead to divisions among athletes within their teams, and this is resulting in negative impacts on a team dynamic and morale. The issue of being fair is easy to see when considering how compensation would be distributed. People see football and basketball as the highest revenue generating sports in most universities. These sports bring in millions of dollars through ticket sales, media, and sponsorships throughout the year. The student athletes that partake in these sports were compensated significantly more than athletes in the other sports at the university. It could create a pay disparity within the athletic department. This imbalance could result in the division among the athletes of the same school, with the lower revenue teams feeling overlooked and not as valuable, even though they have a commitment and contribution to the athletic programs. In addition to this, disparity could spark tension that may already exist between the programs, with the students of the lower waging sports potentially questioning fairness, and if they do not feel equally treated, they may feel the need to go elsewhere. These divisions could alter the sense of unity that is essential for the athletic department's success and overall harmony at a school. As a university, they should want everyone involved in athletics to feel wanted and equal, and for them to be treated fairly, and I believe that this is what makes a school special, is when one athletic team supports another, thus making a great environment for all the college games and events.
So I will obviously be taking the side of the student athletes should be paid as employees. My first reason is their commitment to their sport that they play. NCAA did a study that showed between all three NCAA division levels, they average about 31 hours per week dedicated to their sport that they play. And in the U.S., we consider that a full-time job. So these athletes are working a full-time job, per se, while still going to class. And they're oftentimes held to a higher standard in the classroom because of the image they give the university. So they have to uphold that and then still, get sleep and get ready to perform at their highest level. So I think they should see a little bit of money coming their way just because of how hard they work. And student athletes were also asked how much time they spend in the off season on their sport, and 67% of them at the Division I level said that they often spend as much time or more to their sport than when they're in season, which is absurd. And then we look at in-season college athletes have to travel, and so when they travel for away games, it's usually boosted to 40 or 50 hours a week is being spent on their sport. And then they're out of town for games and still have to complete their schoolwork. So I think for those reasons, they should get some pay from the school as employees.
Thank you, Alex. My second point would be recruitment. If student athletes were treated as employees, it could significantly impact the recruitment process within the schools, especially for these smaller schools and programs that have limited financial sources to begin with. The athletes with high potential would likely prioritize institutions that have the ability to offer the most lucrative compensation packages that the larger schools and programs with more significant revenue streams could easily afford, and the smaller schools would not be able to. The small schools that often rely on scholarships and the promise of personal development rather than a financial incentive would have a major struggle to compete in this new scenario. Without having the ability to match offers from the bigger schools, the smaller schools would find themselves at a huge disadvantage when it comes to recruiting high-profile recruits with a lot of talent. People enjoy that big upset in sports and are falling in love with these schools, and they love to see smaller schools go head-to-head with these big universities. We want to see that big upset happen. And when the high-profile recruits chose to go to a bigger school, these opportunities are less likely to happen. These athletes will go towards the bigger and wealthier schools that will offer them higher pay and better facilities because As a college student, you want money, and if you're going to go to a big school that's going to be good and they're going to offer you a lot of money, you're not going to go to a small school that is just going to want to develop you. The disparity in financial power will not only harm recruitment efforts from smaller schools, but also diminish overall diversity of athletic programs, as only a select group of institutions would be able to secure top-tier athletes. The programs will find themselves always having to scrape from the bottom of the barrel, and it'll always be harder on these programs to have success because the players play games, and without having the necessary talent to compete with these big schools, it will be very hard to reach their goals. Overall, this could undermine the fundamental values of college athletics, where education comes first and personal growth have traditionally been as important as athletic success. And then ultimately, the gap between elite and smaller programs would widen, which would create a fair or less fair and diverse college sports landscape.
In 2022, my second point is how much money athletes bring into their school. So in 2022, college athletic departments generated $17.5 billion of revenue from sports. USA Today showed that they got 232 schools that had the obligation to release their data. So they use that to show us. And that money coming in from the athletic department is used to fund scholarships to bring in students, athletes or not. It can be used to upgrade facilities around campus, like whether that's athletic facilities or academic buildings. That money is also used to pay coaches and staff in the school. So athletes bringing in this much money for their school, it funds the whole school. We saw that in 2022, New Orleans generated the least amount of money for their athletic department, and they still brought in over $2 million of outside money from athletics, and that's one of the bottom of the barrel schools. So you can do a lot of you can do a lot of stuff with $2 million, and you can hire new staff and bring on more teachers to teach everybody. These athletes can also bring in money and allow to upgrade facilities that are just for the student body, so it's creating a better atmosphere for even the non-college athletes. And I think with all this money that they bring in, they should be paid fair wages, just like the staff at the school. And then when you bring in this much money, you're able to upgrade recruiting visits for higher recruits, so you can possibly land that higher recruit that might not come to your school otherwise, but you gave them a good sales pitch. And it's kind of like a domino effect. So you bring in these good athletes with a good recruiting pitch, and then they allow your team to perform better, which then brings in more money for your school. So it's just kind of like a recurring cycle with how you're spending this money and how much money is getting brought in from these college athletes. And I just think $17.5 billion of revenue in 2022 should be, I think a little bit of it should be tossed to those athletes.
There we go. So now we're going to talk about if we weren't having to pick a side, which one we would ultimately agree with. I think I would stick with not being treated as an employee just because of the fairness. I think sports should be fair. If a high-profile athlete wants to go to a lower level school and excel there, and as we've seen before, they can still make to the pros, they should be able to do that. And at a personal, I just like to see good games from the underdog, and it seems nowadays it's been kind of hard with all these high-profile recruits going to big schools. We obviously know they're going to be good, and it's just going to make it hard for these smaller schools to even compete. But and then the one thing I did like from Ski's argument is which I should have done, is find some numbers, so you're not just hearing from me, but hearing from the professionals, the people that study this stuff, and then integrating that into my paper would have been, I think, useful just to see kind of what the numbers have been and where they could go from here.
I think my actual stance on this is I would agree with Danny that they shouldn't be paid like employees. I'm okay with NIL, but I think them being paid like employees of the school is kind of weird because, this isn't their job technically, even though they work full-time. But I don't know, it just seems a little weird to be paid as an employee of the school when you're not really educating anybody or stuff like that. But the point that Danny made about athletes should what do you say, not benefit each other, but your first point,
the whole thing,
no, about supporting each other. Athletes should support each other no matter what. And I think if you start paying athletes, you're going to see a lot of I'm making less than the quarterback, so I don't really like that guy. Yeah, there's a lot of jealousy that can go around. And that was a good point.
Because a lot of these college guys got pride for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that will sum it up, and thank you for watching.